Hey guys, check this out. This is the very first launch of a $200 million rocket that cost over $7 billion to develop. It would be a damn shame if something bad were to happen to— Oh god, no! No!
All the humanity and all the fans.
Yeah, this is the insane story of the Ariane 5 disaster.
Rehearsed civil defense evacuation began immediately.
Things start well. The rocket clears the
Sunday
tower.
newspaper said it all.
It was a catastrophic failure.
Alright, so let's go back and break down the story. It's 1996 and Europe is preparing to launch the Ariane 5, a program that you've invested $1 billion into over the course of a decade. But just 37 seconds into the launch of the rocket, it blows up. But it gets worse. It was also carrying a payload of 4 satellites worth $500 million called Cluster, and yeah, let's just say they didn't survive. So what happened? You might be guessing, oh, maybe it was an engine failure or maybe some hardware malfunction. No, you're thinking too logically. The problem that occurred wasn't a hard problem to solve, but a software problem. See what I did there? No? Okay, sorry. You see, the Ariane 5's predecessor, the Ariane 4, was one of the most reliable rockets ever launched. Of the 116 launches, 113 of them were successful. So the designers decided, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so they ported over all the software from the Ariane 4 onto the new Ariane 5, even though the Ariane 5 is a completely different vessel. So let's talk about the software that killed the rocket. And come on, let's be real, these guys are smart, they're not idiots. The software they transferred over from the 4 to the 5 actually saved the Ariane 4 back in 1989. You see, Ariane 4 Flight 33 was getting ready to launch, and once the countdown passed T-9, the rapid hold down restart code activated. All seemed well, but an error occurred at T-5 that stops the arms from separating from the rocket, hence stopping the launch.
The arms have not opened. For some reason, the computer has decided that it would not authorize the opening of the arms, therefore no takeoff occurred, of course.
Because the rapid hold down restart code was running, this gave the team 50 seconds to reset the countdown to a slightly earlier point. They chose T-6 minutes. After making the fixes they needed to make, the rocket successfully took off, mission accomplished. Now, without that code in place, they would have likely had to scrub the launch and try again the next day. This is because launches have a certain window in which they need to get off the ground. It takes anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour to prep a rocket from the beginning. And if you had to keep prepping it from the beginning each time you need to fix something, that would quickly close that launch window. So it's a sound procedure to have in place, but get this, the code is only useful on the ground. It serves no purpose once the rocket has left the tower. So tell me why they still had this piece of software running after the rocket leapt into the air. It should be cut off the second launch begins, but I digress. But okay, why exactly does letting this code run while the rocket's in the air kill the rocket? Let's talk about that. So the faulty software was running on what's basically a guidance computer. It collects information on where the rocket is in space, how high it's going, where it's pointing, yada yada. It then sends that data over to the onboard flight computer, which is in charge of telling the nozzles where to point in order to keep the rocket going straight. Now, there are 2 of these guidance computers on board because, they believe in redundancy, specifically random hardware failure redundancy, which is generally a decent practice. If something randomly goes wrong with one computer, you have a backup take its place. This is perfect because just after launch, things started to go wrong. Remember that software that should have been running at all? Well, in addition to allowing them to restart a launch, it's tracking something called horizontal bias, which is essentially how much the rocket is moving horizontally. Now, while it's on the ground, it uses this data to align the rocket and prepare for launch. The thing is, a rocket on the ground doesn't move horizontally that much. A rocket in the air, though, different story. Now, the rapid hold down restart code can only track a certain range of horizontal values. Exceed this and, well...
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
Now, even though this flight software should have never been running after launch, even in the Ariane 4 never blew up because its horizontal velocity just never exceeded this maximum threshold range within that 50-second window that the code operated in. The Ariane 5 was much faster though, and its numbers blew past this range. So what happened? Exactly what you're thinking happened. The first flight computer was like, what the hell is this? And it crapped out. But remember, they planned for this. They had another computer on board, so it promptly takes over, sees how fast they're moving, and it also craps out. Uh-oh, 2 dead computers. It's not looking good. But before the second one dies, it sends that error message over to the onboard flight computer. The flight computer interprets it as real data. It doesn't like the data. It's freaking out. It thinks the rocket is about to crash, so it pivots the nozzles to their most extreme point to correct for the non-existent correction. Remember, everything is going fine. There is literally nothing wrong with the rocket. But because it does this, it pitches the rocket over, exposing the rocket to incredible stress. So much so that the rocket proceeds to self-destruct. This occurred around the 37-second mark. The rapid hold-down restart code runs for 50 or so seconds, 40 of which occur in the air. Meaning, if the rocket had held out for just a few seconds more, the code would have terminated itself and the rocket would have gone to orbit. Instead, hundreds of millions of dollars were lost and billions of dollars in expectations were destroyed, all because of a useless piece of software. So what do we learn from this $500 million disaster, and where do we go from there? Well, yeah, that software was promptly deleted, and the system methodology they have completely changed. No longer would they reuse software just because it worked before. They would now only use software that they needed to use. Crazy idea, I know. And additionally, they made the radical decision that after liftoff, and for that matter at all stages of flight, the software does not need to be running, it shouldn't be running. Again, crazy, I know. And lastly, they also decided that they would conduct more robust closed-loop testing using as much real data and real hardware as feasibly possible so that simple, expensive mistakes like these can be caught. Now look, they made a mistake, a really, really expensive mistake, but you know, we all make mistakes. I'm certainly no exception. The great thing about engineering, though, is that we can learn from these mistakes, and they certainly did. After addressing all of these issues, the Ariane 5 went on to become one of the most successful, reliable rockets ever built. It completed its 117th and final mission on July 5th, 2023. And of the 117 launches, it only failed 5 times. And on February 12, 2026, their newest rocket, the Ariane 6, embarked on its maiden launch into orbit, carrying with it million-dollar satellites as well as the hopes and dreams of Europe and their spaceflight ambitions. Sound familiar? Well, let's just say things played out differently this time around. In a good way.